that it's never too late to be a millionaire investor. And so we're going to cover kind of just some ideas and things that we have about money and wealth and why it's important and all of those things. And then at the end, we'll leave it open and you guys can ask us any specific questions that might help you personally in your wealth building journey. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick.
Hey guys, sorry I'm a second late hopping on.
Hi.
Do you guys want me to share? I was prepared to share the slides. Would that be easy or would you rather do it, Linda?
I got it, I think.
Okay.
Press, my tech man went to do something else, but I got it.
Okay, here we go.
Let's see. Does that look okay? Can you see all of them? There we go. All right, ready. All right. So again, we're going to talk to you about no matter where you are in your real estate career, now's the time to be thinking about being a millionaire real estate investor. Wouldn't you say, Jim?
Absolutely.
You're never too late. You're never too early. So, and one of the things that we all have to figure out in the real estate business is what we call the realtor dilemma. And that is the day you pick up your last sign in real estate will be your last dollar that you make. And I remember exactly the day I realized that that was a truth. I guess I just got busy selling houses and making money and didn't realize that there actually wasn't going to be any money if I didn't sell houses. And some days you like selling houses better than others.
And what the reality part of it is that real estate is a great cash flow business.
Yeah.
But because we're self-employed, we have to really figure out ourselves, how do we build wealth? How do we set up that retirement plan? How do we build it? And what do we do?
Yeah. And I think I want to change the name of it from retirement plan to option plan.
Yeah.
Because I think as a lot of times we love what we're doing so much, we think we're never going to want to quit it. And what I realize is I get a lot more calls from agents as they hit about that 10, 12 year in the business. They kind of get a little angst about them of, wow, I kind of feel like I have to do this. I'm not doing it because I want to do this. So I'm going to start calling it, instead of a retirement plan, I'm going to call it my option plan. And then how many of you feel like this might be, press, might be the truth? Oh, for some reason it's not. Oh, I know why. I got to get on here. Is based on your calculations, you can probably retire about 5 years after you die, right? When you realize, oh gosh, how much money it would actually take. Dana and I interviewed, I think we interviewed a lady, or Press and I did, on our Profit Share Mastery podcast that had worked in long-time care. And one of the things she said that made her get into the real estate business was she saw all these people that at the end of their lives, their kids were scraping every bit of money they could. They were scraping every bit of money they could because actually living towards the end of their life was way more expensive than living during their peak earning years, really.
And so many people become lifestyle millionaires, which means they spend as much as they make.
Right.
And so they don't look, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years out on what life's going to look like at that point in time, whenever you're past your peak earning years.
Yeah. And I think that's why I like to talk about it more as an option plan, because that's what wealth is. Wealth is actually freedom and options. And so when you think about it in that mindset, nobody wants to work to try to figure out what kind of money you're going to need when you retire. So I think if we make it a little more exciting and understand that it's going to give us options for travel, it's going to give us options for lifestyle. I know we have grown kids, and one of our greatest joys is like taking all of them and their kids on vacation and trips. Well, that takes a lot of money coming in, right? And it also takes the freedom to be able to not be working to have to do that. So
yeah, and the reality is that life should get better as you get older.
Yeah.
It should provide the freedoms, and from all your earned efforts and everything that you've done through your peak earning years, you ought to have money to be able to do the things that you want to do and really help the people you want to help.
Yeah, so true. So here's kind of a statistic that we had ran across when we were writing our book Hold, which is how to find, buy, and rent houses to build wealth. We call it the yellow book. But if you followed 100 people starting at the time they enter the workforce for 40 years until approximately that's when most people would retire, or at least want options and start doing a little more traveling and other things, here's what you'll find. And I like to call this is our default key if we don't do something about it sooner. And that's 1 would be wealthy, 4 would be financially secure, 5 will continue working, not because they want to, but literally because they have to. 36 will be dead. I always say, I hope I'm not part of that that group. And then 54 will be broke and dependent on family, friends, and relatives,
Or Social Security.
or Social Security, and that doesn't go very far. And I think about we call the 54 life's unexpected. We have certainly had in our own family relatives who literally outlived the money that they had, and you kind of have to step into that gap. And it feels pretty darn good to be able to give someone a life estate, pay off their house because they're in their 70s or 80s and they're about to lose it, and be able to pay off that house and let them have what they call life estate, where they just live in that house free until they die. And so that's the kind of stuff that you and I didn't even think about 20
That's
something
true.
years ago.
That's so true.
But it was nice to be able to be in those situations and take care of those people. So here's the test we have to ask ourselves. And I always say every week you should do a check. And every week that you can't answer yes to this, then it's time to go back out and work on the wealth part of your life. And that is, if the financial resources of your real estate business went away at the stroke of midnight, would you have enough passive income to sustain your current lifestyle? And I always like to say, if you don't like the lifestyle you have, then go ahead and change that to the lifestyle you want. Do you have enough money to sustain the lifestyle that you really want to live? And as long as that answer is no, every week, part of your week should be about working a little bit on building some of that wealth. And the definition of being wealthy is when your passive income exceeds the income necessary to fund your lifestyle and provide you freedom of your time, money, so that you can do what's important to you. I get a lot of calls from agents who have been in 30 years, and the husband's ready to go to Florida and the wife is too, but they feel stuck because she's got this book of business and she doesn't feel like she can walk away from it, or she doesn't feel like she can leave the money. And so that doesn't leave them much options for what they really should be spending their time doing.
And the key word to this is passive income, because really when you look at money, it's a mindset issue more than anything. I mean, when you're looking at it, there's two types of money. There's earned income and there's passive income. Earned income is the job you have and to go out every day to do what you do to earn money. The passive side is putting money to work for you such that it throws off a source of income while you're continuing to do what it is to create earned income.
Yeah, exactly. Great way to put it. So kind of our financial journey real quick is, and honestly, always say the worst thing that ever happens to you usually can be the greatest thing that ever happens to you, as long as you do two things. One, learn the lessons you need to learn from it, and then change something you're doing so you don't get in that position again. And that's exactly what happened to us. We actually Jimmy was in the restaurant and nightclub business. I was in my mid-20s, and all of a sudden the economy in Texas went bad real quick. And it was just a really bad time for Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, especially. I think the whole nation happened, but it was worse in those states because of the oil and gas industry and savings and loans. But because of that incident, because we had to sell a business for $600,000 less than we owed against it, it really made us wake up and realize that gradually and suddenly is going to happen in your life, maybe more than once. And so for us to not be prepared was not a very good place. I always like to say we didn't say nice things to each other. It's a miracle we've made it 40 years because of that, because money is the number one reason people divorce, to be honest with you. And so I'm just thankful today because we woke up and started trying to find books and understand money better. Like you always talk about money, being two different ways. And so I think that really helped us to have an urgency and a desire that some people don't wake up until way later in life and realize that they even need to do.
And looking back on that experience, we were living on the edge. And we didn't have good money principles. We made a lot of earned income, cash flow, but we were spending it as fast as we made it. To be honest with you, we had debt on our business, quite a bit of debt on the business. And so the business really had to perform at such a high level to cover the debt service and to make us a living too. That it was just, it was really tough to go out there and make it.
And for me, it was great, quite a blessing, because it was Jimmy's suggestion, because I was in the middle of going to college, because I didn't go to college right out of high school. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college. So didn't go to college until I realized I could only make minimum wage. And so it was Jimmy's suggestion that I even try real estate sales, because a mentor of his told him a long time ago, that's a great way to make great money. And by the way, it is a great way to make great money, but it's not a way to build wealth. And that's why we have kind of adopted this as our message to people is, yes, we're in the greatest industry in the world. However, if you don't take your money and do something with it and make it create it into passive income, then you really have had no more than probably the job you quit to come to this job.
Yeah, and so the thing you want to get out of what we're talking about right now, Linda and I built a one-page business plan. And that one thing was the thing that catapulted us into following this system.
Yeah, and really the books that we really found that helped us the most was a second book by Robert Kiyosaki, which is called Cash Flow Quadrant. A lot of people read Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's very inspiring. It's very motivational. But the truth is the answers that we needed came in Cash Flow Quadrant. And pretty much, Jim, it pretty much told us that we were smack dab in the middle of self-employed people.
Yeah.
And that we weren't on the, we're 95, we were where 95% of the world was. We weren't where the 5% wealthy were.
And this is where we come in and we talk about money mindset. This was the thing that really explained to us how money really works. When you look at on the left side of the quadrant, which we call the employee self-employed sign, 95% of our population lives and dies on that side of the equation. And the way I think about that, and I was one of those people thought about money the way that 95% thought about money. I thought you went out and you earned money, you had expenses to live and to operate your business and all that stuff. And then hopefully you paid your taxes if you had any money left.
Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't.
And then if you had any money left to invest, it was called disposable income. And this is the way business schools were teaching it.
Mhm.
You had disposable income. And the reality was that 95% of us didn't have any money left by the time we earned the money, we spent the money for expenses, we tried to pay our taxes. There was no money left to invest.
Right.
And so getting the philosophy of investment first was
Yeah.
a big shift in our thinking.
Yeah.
And it had to be so important to us that we were building that future lifestyle that we put a plan in place to make that happen.
Yeah.
And
And
go-
one of the greatest things that I love about what we learned, Jim, from the cash flow quadrant is investing and things like that can seem very complicated. And the way Robert spelled it out was it's actually really kind of simple. There's only 3 ways to build wealth. There's stocks, and of course, with KW, we say there's 4, but there's stocks, real estate, and businesses. And because you and I had just been so burnt by business was the last thing to enter our mind at that time.
And businesses really, they pay the highest rate of return, but they're also the highest risk.
Yeah. So stocks, you and I weren't interested in understanding or learning. And our philosophy on that is if you're not interested enough to really study it and understand it and know what you're investing in, you're really being a speculator. You're not really truly being an investor.
And then we ask the question, what business are we in?
Yeah.
We've sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes to people every day, but yet we weren't doing what we were selling. We weren't
Well,
really
at the time we weren't selling that many houses to do it, but we said we're in this business, we might ought to understand investing part of it. So real estate was what we picked,
right.
in all honesty, and didn't even pick profit share in the beginning, but we picked real estate investing. And thank goodness we did, because that turned out to be such a great thing, since all of us know real estate and we run across real estate deals all the time. It's just whether do you pass them on to someone else or do you take advantage of them yourself?
So let's look at the truth of this. You can become a successful real estate investor no matter which quadrant you're in, whether you're self-employed, whether you're an employee, whether you own businesses, or whether you own assets or investments. You can become a millionaire in any one of those. There's a great book out called The Wealthy Barber. It's a story about a self-employed barber who in his later years of life was a multimillionaire because he saved 10% of everything that he'd ever done and invested it.
Yeah.
And then moving from the right quadrant provides more freedom of your time and money. When you put people to work for you and assets to work for you, it frees up your time to go do the things that you are most important to you. And most wealthy people live on the right side. The 5% that move from the left side to the right side those are mainly self-made millionaires that have finally learned and understand the mindset of money.
Yeah.
And most millionaires started on the left and they moved to the right.
Yeah. And really, honestly, probably that millionaire next door, the wealthy barber, one of the things that they probably learned to do is figure out how to take the money off the top, not off the bottom. Wait till it
Yeah.
fell out the bottom, because it never is going to fall out the
There's a
bottom.
real good book by Michael, I can't ever pronounce his last name, Malkovich or something
Yeah.
like that. But
We call him Motorbike Mike because nobody can say his name, but Dana and I had him on our podcast, Everything Life in Real Estate. Don't remember what episode, but he actually talks, it's called Profit First.
yeah, Profit First, the name of the book.
Yeah, it's a great book to read because it teaches you how to take that money off the top, which is exactly what we did. And we'll tell you about that in a minute. So I love this quote by Franklin D. Roosevelt. It says, real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away, paid for, purchased with common sense, paid for in full, and managed with reasonable care. It's about the safest investment in the world. And I love that because I think sometimes what keeps people from doing more real estate investing is they feel like it's a little riskier. But the truth is, if you look at those three ways to build wealth that the average person has, this is the least risky.
Well, that's something that most of the people on this call really fully understand. So if you took just the three ways of building wealth, you know, you're going to pick one of those to do. I mean, it's logical that it would be real estate.
Yeah, for sure. And the trick on that too is to be an investor, not a speculator. So that means you have to understand it and learn it. And, you know, and we'll tell you our investment criteria in just a minute. But one of the things that we did is, like Jim mentioned earlier, is we actually started with a plan. There's something about starting with a plan that actually causes you to get in motion. So when we made our plan, one of the things that happened right away is I immediately found a house, went on a listing appointment and found a house that we could buy. And I think if I had not had that plan, I probably wouldn't have noticed that property as an opportunity. And so when I came home.
Now, remember at that time we were broke.
Yep.
We had, our credit was marginal at best.
Yep.
We had no money in savings.
Yep.
And the only real estate that we owned was the house that we lived in that was owner financed.
Yep.
And we were still paying off 600,000 in debt.
Yeah. So I came home that night super excited. So I think the plan kind of opens up the world for you to start seeing opportunities that you didn't see before you decide to make a plan. So deciding to make the plan, to me, kind of is what puts everything in motion.
And for me, the pain of going broke,
yeah,
as we did, and spending a year crying in my beer, trying to figure out what to do, was painful enough to build this plan.
Yeah. So we came home that day, super excited about this house, and Jim immediately reminded me, we don't have credit. We can't go to the bank and get the money. We don't have any money. And I don't really know how we're going to do this. And so I went to sleep that night. When I woke up the next morning,
No, it's in the middle of the night.
Well,
and you said, Lou Craft, and I thought you had a boyfriend or something. You were mentioning this name in the middle of the night in your sleep, and it was a builder that you'd worked with for a couple of years.
Yeah, and for me, that meant I really could trust Lou with money. I felt like he trusted me, and so I just presented the opportunity with him and offered to split it. And the thing that we would throw in was our commission, because that's all we had at the time.
And this first property was a flip; it wasn't a hold.
Right. So thankfully, Lou was willing to invest in us, and he trusted us enough. So we always say that even if you don't have the money, somebody's got the money, right? And so we went on to do 2 more properties with Lou after that, that we both have kept long term. And those properties, one of the property that we kept after we split our partnership with Lou, we let him pick which one, since we were so grateful to him for even trusting us to do this with us. That the property that he left for us to take, we still own today. And
Been paid for 20 years, and it pays us over $4,000 a month now.
Which is way more than Jimmy's Social Security that he worked for 40 years.
One property pays more than I make for working 40 years of my life monthly.
Right. So for us, that was a great opportunity to figure out how to do it and not get stuck on the fact that we didn't have good credit, we didn't have money, we didn't have all the things that you need.
And we had even all the fears around why we shouldn't do it and why we couldn't do it. Not only being broke and our credit blemished and everything else, and having to ask somebody else to come in there and help us. We had all those fears, but by doing that and getting started, I think that we wouldn't, I don't know if we'd be on the same trajectory we are now if Lou hadn't worked with us with that deal. I
Yeah.
would have found somebody else maybe.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done since then, we have, we probably have what, 70 something single families still
Mhm.
now. We've bought hundreds. And
70 single family annual rentals.
right. And then we have about 34 short-term cabin rentals. And so one of the things that we thought Jim could spend a little bit of time doing is kind of sharing the difference between the two, because opportunity comes in different ways and you want to understand them well enough that if you see an opportunity, you can take advantage of it.
Now, we've really invested, invested in land, we've invested in annual rentals, we've invested in short-term rentals, and we've invested in office buildings. And we've been through a lot of different phases of that, from development to building buildings to building log cabins and stuff. And so we've kind of been through the spectrum of those things. But the short-term rentals are kind of the buzzword that are out there in the
Yeah.
marketplace right now. And the reason why is because your margins have been really crushed in the 12-month rentals.
Right.
I mean, the money that we were making out of those that we were buying 15, 20 years ago is totally different than the money we earn from today's buying them at today's prices, because the prices today the rents haven't caught up with the prices right now.
Yeah. And a lot of times people will ask us, would you still invest in single family homes and just put more money down? Absolutely.
They're great
They're
investments.
still great investments, no matter what. It's still a great place to put your money.
So let's just walk through. This is one of our cabins up in Branson, Missouri, that we have inside of a little resort area up there. But we bought this property for $315,000. We put $35,000 down we furnished the property with $35,000. So we had a total of $350,000 into this property. The bill price was $315,000 to build it. We put 30% down, which is $94,500, and we financed $220,500 for 6% on a 15-year note. We had a monthly payment of $1,860.70. Okay, so here's the questions that you need to ask. And if you were looking at going out and having your own nightly rental into an area that you didn't know a whole lot about, you'd want to ask, how many days on average are cabins or houses renting for in that area? Because you have to be able to do a pro forma on what you think that cabin can do over a year's period of time. And so what the information that we found out, it was ours rented for about 285 nights a year. The average rent was $275 a night. Are the prices for the rentals in that particular area seasonal? And the answer to us was yes. In January and February, the prices go down and the occupancy goes way down, and then it builds the rest of the year. Do you have to discount at certain times of the year? Yes. Like I said, in January and February, we had to drop our rates almost 50% to get people to come in there and to rent our cabins.
But that's where we got the average of 275, because
Right.
the cabins actually rent for more. But when you take the seasonal and the average of discounting, that's what you come up with on an average night you would rent them for throughout
Right.
the whole year.
The other thing is, you ask, what is the management fee? Now, management fees are the key deal in nightly rentals. And management fees for nightly rentals, because the managers have to manage all the cleaning, they have to service the clients while they're there. There's a lot of moving parts in management of nightly rentals. And usually the ranges are anywhere between 15%, and I've seen it as high as 40%. If you went to Vail, Colorado, went to Aspen, those areas and stuff, you'd be paying 40% on most condos and stuff and most housing around that area for management. And so one of the other big questions and a huge expense is, how are cleaning fees handled? If you're paying for the cleaning fees, it really eats into your cash flow. We charge our clients a cleaning fee whenever they check out.
Yeah.
Where do you market properties? Well, we market it through our own website called BransonVacationRetreats.com, through VRBO, through Airbnb, and those three. Now, AirDNA is a competitive insight website that you can go to. It's an app actually that you can go to. and you can get all kinds of information on whatever area you're looking to do a nightly rental in.
Yeah.
And it'll give you some really good data.
Okay.
And so taking this particular property, it rented for 285 days a year times the average rent of 275, what gave us a gross income or an annual rent of $78,375. Okay, by the time you take the annual rent and you take off the 20% management fee, which is $15,675, it gives you $62,700. Then the additional expense to operate that cabin, insurance was $1,800. The property taxes up in Missouri were $2,500. Electricity averaged $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. The water bill was $7,720 a year. The maintenance on the property to maintain the air conditioners and the different things with the
Yards.
property yards and cleaning and stuff like that was $5,000. All of our cabins up in Branson have a hot tub. We have to clean those between guests and stuff. And we spend $2,500 a year doing that. And then once a year, we do a total deep clean and stuff, and they charge $500 in that. So the total expenses to operate were $19,020. So when you look at that and you put everything together, the debt service was $22,328.40. The monthly payment was $1,860.70 times 12. And so the income minus the debt service was $40,371.60. And then the income minus the debt service minus the expenses leave you a net total of $21,351.60. And so if you look at a cash invested return, we put $94,500 down. We furnished them with cash for $35,000. So our total cash investment on this particular property was $129,500. And if you take that number and you divide it by the total cash that it nets at the end of the year, the $21,351, it gives you a 17% cash on cash return.
Yeah.
Which is very, that's a great return on your money. How many of you are out there earning 17% on your money right now and building an asset?
Right. That somebody else is
And
helping
this is,
pay off.
that somebody, think about this. This is a $315,000 investment plus $35,000 in furniture. So it's $350,000. You put 94,000. So you got control of a $350,000 asset for 94,500 plus your 35,000 for your furniture. And you've got somebody else paying for that asset for you, and you're making 17% on your money.
Yeah. Beats stocks all day long on that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is kind of our formula for our single family homes. And this is a real simple formula. We don't violate it. This is the formula we've used since the very beginning. It's
We wrote this formula back in 1992.
Yeah. And we actually have bought in every single market. So as long as we stick with this, we've never lost a property. We've never, had any issues in any kind of market. And we've had several other downturns and our properties all still did fine. So the whole formula for wealth building is buy the property at least 10% below market value. That's our goal. Put at least 20% or more down so that we get to a 70-30 loan to value ratio
Or less.
So that goes up and down depending on the markets. Sometimes we have to put more down to get that. Sometimes we have to put less down. But we just make sure at the end that we've had a 70-30 loan to value ratio or better. They cash flow at least a minimum of $200 a month after principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And we did them on a 15-year amortization because we were trying to get a certain dollar amount coming in passively by the time Jimmy was 60.
Now, we didn't really need, once we started investing, after a while, our real estate business had taken off. We were creating quite a bit of cash flow from our real estate sales business. So we really didn't have to live off of this money that came in off our investments. And so we financed everything on a 15-year note because I was 40 years old when we bought our first house. And our plan was that we were doing it over a 20-year period. So by the time I was 60, we wanted to have 20 properties that were paid off,
Free and clear.
that were free and clear, and they were paying us $250,000 a year after expenses.
Yeah, that was the original plan. Buy newer if possible, 15 years old or less, and we were just trying to keep our repair expenses down with that. Buy 3 to 4 bedroom brick or stucco if possible, and again, that was about maintenance. And then buy in stable or appreciating neighborhoods. And what you don't see on here is betting on appreciation.
Mhm.
Where people lose money, whether they go to Florida and do it or California and comes here to do it. When people start buying an investment property based on what they think appreciation is going to do, that's when they get in lots of trouble.
And most of them,
Appreciation for us was just icing on the cake.
most of them are in negative cash flow position. So one of the things Gary Keller taught me in the early years, and then to both, that it had to at least make $1 worth of profit.
Yeah.
Every month. In our case, we put $200 worth of profit had to be on there. Now, working this formula today in today's market would be pretty tough.
You'd have to put more money.
You'd have to
down.
put more cash down.
But it's
to-
still
to
a
get it
great place to
work.
put your money.
Yeah.
And if you're younger, you don't have to do it on the 20-year. You could do it on the 30-year. Anybody that's younger, we tell them, go ahead and do it on 30 and just get some kind of plan together to pay it off early.
Even if you're older, it can work because the cash flow is gonna increase greatly. You could be making $500 to $600 a month cash flow on a 30-year note. If you're 40 years old, it's still gonna be a better rate of return than they're gonna make putting their money in the stock market or something. It's just not gonna pay the debt down as quick.
Yeah, so true. So here's kind of some truths, where the money comes from, because a lot of times the first question we get asked is, well, wait a minute, where are we going to find the money? Well, you might be driving it, you might be wearing it, you might be eating it, or you might be living in it, or you might know someone else who has it. And for us, when we first started, we knew someone else who had it and went to him and asked him to partner with us and gave him 50% of the deals that we found to be our partner. So the money is there. When the desire and the dream is big enough, you'll find the money. I just don't think
Okay.
money's is truly really the issue at the end of the
The
day.
deal's finding the deal, and that's
Yeah.
the one thing that all of us
Yeah,
that are on this call right now are good at.
Yeah.
We're good at finding deals.
yeah. And remember, our first real estate investment, we were still climbing our way out of $600,000 worth of debt. We had no cash and weak credit. And it would seem impossible to be able to even get started when we did. But because we had someone that we felt like would partner with us, we just went and asked them to do it. You know, another thing that we did also that helped is that I think is a good way you could do it is to build an automatic, after Lou, we built an automatic savings plan that every 15% of every one of our commissions got taken out off the top by our title company and put into an AG Edwards financial.
We were
account.
actually doing profit first before
Before
there
profit,
was.
yeah, we didn't
profit
know, we
first.
didn't call it profit. We should have called it profit first and
Yeah.
beat Mike to the punch, but darn it. So that's one way you can do it too, is make some kind of automatic system where the money gets taken out of you, away from you before you get a chance. Because we
And
would
the
just,
key word's automatic.
yeah, because we had, tell them what disease we had.
Yeah, we had the disappearing money disease.
We had
And
the
what that,
DMD disease.
what that meant is if it touched our greedy little fingers, somehow the money just went poof and it disappeared. And so we had to figure out an automatic way of building a reserve of money that once it built up to a certain amount, we went and bought a house using the same formula that we wrote.
Yeah. And in this deal, you know, the main thing is you've got to put value in the knowledge that you have. And that's what we did with Lou. You know, he put up the money, he did the repairs, but our knowledge was worth something.
He wouldn't have
too.
got the deal. if
No,
we-
he would have never even started probably investing in real estate had we not done that. So he won out of the deal also and was very appreciative. So let's talk about the long-term rental example. Just kind of compare them for them.
Well, the property rent for one here, this is the 1% rule, and this used to apply on a regular basis. But think about if you own any rentals right now, think about when you bought that property, whether it's a house or apartment complex or whatever it is, office building, would that property rent for 1% of what you paid for that property on a monthly basis? So if you paid $250,000 for one, it would need to rent for $2,500 more a month. And now if you can go find that deal today,
Go
you
do
need
it.
to buy all of them you can
Yeah.
touch. But it's really almost impossible to go do that today. here's one of our properties that we did, and we purchased this property for 225,000, and we put 20% down on it, which is 45,000, which left us $180,000, and we financed $180,000 at 6% for 30 years. Now, let me tell you guys, back in 1992, when we started this journey, interest rates were anywhere between 6% and 9%.
Yeah. Most of
We-
them are 7 something.
Yeah, we made our numbers work for those type of interest rates, just like you guys can today with the 5, 6, and in some cases 6.5% rates.
Yeah.
You can make those numbers work for you.
You just may have to put more money down because the prices have gone up.
And so our payment for this property was $1,079 and 19 cents a month, and it rented for $2,000 a month.
You know, and the thing about it is there's always the Ds that we call that will cause people to sell their houses way below what the market really is. Drugs, death, divorce, and distress. Those situations have been there all
And-
along. They
And
never
they're
go
there in
away.
every
and
market.
They're there in every market. And those people need you to be a hero to them, to get them cashed out as fast as possible so that they can go have a restart in their life, or they can go start their life over, or they can move on to whatever they're trying to move on to. Or get out of whatever situation they're trying to get out of. So just because our market prices go up and our markets get better, doesn't mean people's situations are always getting better. Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, so this one was 30 years, payment was,
Yeah.
you already did that?
Mhm.
Okay, I missed that. I must fell asleep. All right,
All right, so the principal and interest was 1,079. The taxes were 460. The insurance was 115 a month, and the 8% management fee was $160 a month. So on this property, the total expense was 1,714 times 12 is 20,000, 568 $568.
got it.
Okay, when we take that and we get to 20,568, the annual income for that property was $24,000 a year. So that would leave a total of $3,432 a year in cash flow, and we had $1,000 maintenance. It only left us $2,432. So when we look at that and we spent $45,000 to get into the property, and we made 2432 for it. It showed a 5.4% return cash on cash. Now, if you look at that, that doesn't look like a great investment, especially compared to an annual rental. I mean, to the nightly rentals. But the amount of work that nightly rentals are and the amount of moving parts in the nightly rentals are a lot less controllable than this investment. So with this investment, the way I try to look at it is, we paid what, 215,000 for the house. We put $45,000 down to it. So we got into a $215,000 investment for $45,000. And then the tenants started paying for it, and it started cash flowing a little bit of money every month to us. And so it was kind of like a piggy bank for us. So every month that tenant made a payment, part of it went to pay off the debt, and a little bit trickled into that $2,432 a year to pay off. And this particular property was financed. I can't remember whether we did 15 or 30 on that one.
Well, probably 15, but the thing is also, we also got to remember, we don't count the appreciation, but these houses have probably doubled and tripled since we bought them.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's,
And so when we look at that, 2250 times 12 is 27,000 minus the cost. Let's see, on this one,
same one.
6432 minus 1,000 maintenance is $5,432. So if you hit the 1% rule, it would pay you 12% on your money.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference between 5.4 and 12% if it was to rent for, the 1% of what we paid for it.
Yeah. So here's the thing about investing, that we'd like to do this. And what I'd love to do is after this is kind of open it up for your specific questions so that we can help you wherever you are in building wealth. And remember, wealth just equals freedom, right? And our ultimate goal is to get options and freedom. But all of this stuff is going to take us making big commitments that are kind of scary. And the way that you are going to get your life to be a really big life is you're going to have to go out and find some of these big, scary commitments. And I don't care if you're in the real estate business or not, when you make your first investments or when you make any investment or you move up in the type of investment you do, it takes a commitment. And sometimes that commitment can be scary. And it's going to take some courage, right? Because, but I read something the other day that says we actually learn the fastest the more risk we take, because, and I think it's because you want to get out of this scary, awful place called courage that you make when you make a big
And I
commitment.
think anytime that you really do something that you don't have the credentials or the capability to go do, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah. And I always like to say the difference between courage and fear is this. Fear is where you just wet your pants over that commitment you said you were going to make, whether for us, it was those 20 houses was a big commitment for us at that time. And it did make us want to wet our pants. But the difference is with courage, you go ahead and make that commitment with those wet pants anyway, right? You just hope nobody sees your pants are wet. But you get those capabilities and you get those credentials. And then once you do, you build a whole new confidence that you didn't have before. And once you get that confidence, the thing we don't want to do is get into step 5, which is complacency. And that's real easy for us to do, whether our real estate business is making us a lot of money, or we've got a few houses and we think that's all okay, or that's enough. But we don't want to get into complacency. We just want to go back out and find that next really big commitment and go ahead and make those and keep doing that, because that's how people wind up with big lives.
And the reality was, whenever we built that plan and made the commitment to buy those 20 houses, that catapult, that 250,000 goal that we had coming here has morphed to over $4 million a year. And so getting on the journey and start participating and getting into the game is it's the hardest part.
Yeah, it is. It's the biggest, scariest commitment. But I don't think none of us look back and go, I wish I hadn't made that big, scary commitment. I wish I'd have made more big, scary commitments, really.
What scares me is, Linda, wonder if we didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Wonder if we didn't do this, what would our life look like today? And what would the people we've been able to help and do things with that we couldn't have done?
Yeah, so true. So I just want to encourage you to kind of keep this in mind and teach your kids that the way you get a big life is go make big, scary commitments, not by staying small and staying in a box. It's by taking that extra risk and making commitments that you don't really understand or know how you're going to do it. But now you've committed, you'll figure it out.
What's cool, we're very conservative investors. And so really what's really cool about this, if we can go do this, anybody can
do this. And here's one of our favorite things to do that we think everybody should do with your significant other is we went to the Four Seasons. We couldn't afford to stay at the Four Seasons.
We sat in a lobby.
We sat in their lobby and maybe ordered a drink. But go to the Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton, go somewhere that just really inspires you. Maybe it's an ocean, maybe wherever, and sit down and figure out, what is your freedom number? What's that dollar amount of passive income that you need each year to sustain the lifestyle that you really, really want for yourself? And then when you no longer work or want to work, you have options and you have money coming in, but you got to come up with what is that number first. And so we call that our freedom number, because remember, wealth equals
and freedom. Our original freedom number was $250,000 by the time I was 60 years old.
So, and by the way, that's a good point, because I think sometimes people don't put a number because they're afraid, what if I put too small or too big? Don't worry about that, because after a while, we didn't even need a new number in place. We just kept doing the big, scary commitments and the activities that made it become bigger and bigger. So what I want to do is share with you a few books that kind of we think are important for you to read and start understanding money. Cash Flow Quadrant, we've talked about that already. Our book Hold has all of our strategies in there. Building Wealth One House at a Time is a great book.
That was a great book for me.
And then The Simple Path to Wealth is another great book that's good for people to adopt some of the practices in there. And here's the thing, wealth is not something that we grow up learning about. We have to read and understand it. And we are going to give you a QR code. I hope this works, that you can scan to download what we call our freedom worksheet that kind of walks you through how to create your number. And then what I'd love to do is,
and they said you need to slow down whenever you do this. He said you have to move it up and down a little bit and let it sit there a minute before it actually loads.
Well, and also, Dana, you can pass these slides out to everybody and they can have it, and that will help.
Yes,
okay, so let me see if I am not sharing anymore. Correct. What I do.
Um,
Here we
There
go.
we
Let me
go.
see how I can not share anymore. I think it's at the top now. Let's see.
New share.
No, it's not new share.
is there a red thing that says stop
Oh.
sharing?
Pause
Yes,
share. There
stop
we go.
share.
Stop share. There we go. Got it. There we go. Awesome.
Perfect.
Perfect. So I'd love for us to, anybody that's got questions or you got, want to try to help figure out your, your strategy or how do you get started or how do you keep going or what do you do next, wherever you are, everybody's going to be at a different place in their journey. So
We've got a couple, Linda. We've got 2 in the chat, and then Stephanie will come to you after those 2. So you can just keep your hand raised. Emily said, what about multifamily, 2 to 4 units, and also international investing? Any thoughts on those 2?
I think you need to start with whatever you're most familiar with and whatever's easiest for you. The reason Linda and I started with residential houses is because we really understood it and we knew how to buy them. We knew how to sell them. If we got into trouble and stuff, we could get out of them fairly quick. And so that was the least amount of risk. I don't think I would be jumping into international investing until I was really familiar. And remember, even if you're going out to a different city or something, and you're going to invest into a property that's out of state or whatever, you got to understand that market. You've got to learn that market before you go out and invest in it. And you've got to really understand the management involved in that also.
yeah, and I would say, remember, we say if you don't really understand it, it's like, especially with international, you would be a speculator, and that's where all the risk lies. Risk lies in speculating, not truly investing, because investing means you have to know it, understand it, and can somewhat control it. There is a book for Emily, if you are interested, that a really good friend,
Multifamily.
Multifamily Millions is a great book. My friend sent me years ago. The other reason we didn't do multifamily, one was because we could sell out a single family. We knew we could get out of those, and if we were a little afraid and needed to do something. But the other reason is when you go to sell a multifamily, you're selling to another investor. Whereas when you go to sell your single family, you're selling retail.
So
That's another reason why we picked.
what you're saying, in other words, with multifamily, you make your money on your cash flow.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily make your money on selling that property unless you're holding it for a long time. If you're not going to keep it very long and you're going to make money off the cash flow, it's a different situation. But if you're going to hold it long term, and most of the risk involved in multifamily is not making enough monthly cash flow to cover expenses and stuff that are unexpected expenses that can happen.
And we also believe that you get to your hold number as fast as you can. We don't not flip, but flipping is not our number one strategy. Flipping is just nothing more than you going and sell another house or 2. So we say, look, what is your hold number you need? And then any flipping you do is just extra flipping to either create more cash flow or because like we did it on a set of apartments that we made 100, 200 grand off those properties.
Yeah, it made 500,000 total, and we had a partner and we split 250 each.
Yeah, so we've done some of that, but we never got our eye off the ball off of our hold strategy because that's what's going to create wealth and freedom someday and options. So, but yeah, Multifamily Millions would be a great book for you to read if you do want to dabble in multifamily.
I'm going to post the link to that in the chat too.
Yep.
Okay, Nikki asked, where would you start growing your real estate portfolio in today's market?
Locally where you are, there's always going to be the D's, drugs, death, divorce, distress, all of that's still always going to be there. And you know that market the best. So we still always start within 40 minutes of where we are. And I might go out little farther towns or something if I needed to. But most of you guys are in middle America. You still got deals that may seem high to you, but the rest of the world, it's not.
And also you need to spread your net really wide when you're starting out and let everybody know that you're an investor that's going to buy. Linda and I put deals out and tell people all the time, you can keep the commission on the property. We just want the deal.
Yeah.
And so, and we go to our bank and we get it set up such that we are just like a cash buyer whenever we go in to get a property. We have everything lined out on the front end on what we need. We have the cash available to go do it, put the money down on it. We have the financing available. And so we make ourselves just like a cash buyer out in the marketplace and spread the word. Tell every realtor that you know, every friend you know that you're out, in the investing world and your goal is to buy X amount of number of properties.
And believe it or not, use our whole book. I think somewhere on command, they actually have a PowerPoint you can use with it. If you can't find it, let us know and I'll dig it up for you somewhere. But you could do that. Some of our best deals have came from other investors. So don't
Yeah.
think that if you teach investors, it hurts you, because quite honestly, sometimes investors will say, you know what, my wife is sick of this house. You don't only have an investment house anymore. Do you want to buy it?
Yeah.
So
And also going to out-of-state owners
mhm.
that in your area, you can go to the appraisal district and get a list of all your out-of-town owners. They charge you for the list, but you can get it. And then one of the best things is just take a picture of the house and mail it to the out-of-state owners and tell them you're a local investor that buys locally and see if they're interested in selling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
for
a
sure.
great idea. I love that. I've never thought about that. That's really good. Steph, you want to ask your question? And then we got one more from Josh.
Yeah, I have two questions actually. One is, I'm going to just give you a brief scenario, and I think I know the answer, but I just want to confirm. So in our market today, I can purchase the home for $215,000. It rents for only $1,450 or $1,500. So not the 1%. Are you saying that as long as it produces that rent and will go up in value, that I just need to put enough down to make it cash flow, or not purchase that?
No, I'm telling you to put enough money down to make it work.
Okay.
And today's market, that's a very, very common thing. Now, one of the things that you want to think about, and that is the location of that property in the neighborhood. Is it an area that's going up or is it an area that's going down? If it's an
Definitely up, yes.
then it's going up, then the rents are more than likely going to go up too. And so at some point, the rents end up catching up the price of the property. And at that point, it really turns into a really nice investment. Now, putting enough cash down to make the numbers work for you, where you can get a couple $100 worth of cash flow or whatever out of the property on a monthly basis, is going to be the key. But those turn into really good investments over time. That's a good whole property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one similar to that doesn't throw off any cash flow at all. And it's also gone up 40,000 in 2 years in value. So
Mhm.
I don't need the cash right now. So I'm just paying it all down on the mortgage. It doesn't produce any extra, and I'm raising the rent each year.
That is
So
so smart.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing
Okay.
great. Keep
And over time, you'll have some that cash flow more and some that cash flow less. So you're in a big game and you're just playing the big game with those properties.
yeah, be careful. One of the things that we did, and again, because all we could afford, we bought quite a few older properties. Now they've gone way up in value and stuff, but the expenses to
Yeah.
operate them on an annual basis are way more expensive than it is buying something that's, got newer air conditions in it, that's a newer property, that's brick and not frame and that type of thing.
The other thing you
Yeah.
have to do, Stephanie, is make sure you go fight those taxes every year to keep those lower so that your taxes don't get out of whack and cause your numbers to be even worse.
yeah, they haven't raised my taxes yet. And I was fortunate with this one. I saw a pod in the driveway and I asked them if they were moving, and it was the dad had died and he had replaced the roof, HVAC and windows. The inside was just trash, but that was just flooring and paint and new bathrooms. So
Awesome.
that was a good buy. I just haven't seen that again. My second question, I'll be quick, is, I work with a ton of investors. I'm their realtor. I find deals for them. And how do I ethically buy the deal myself if it's on the market and I don't offer it to them? Sometimes I feel a little guilty that I'm not
Well,
offering it to them.
And you know what? This is a big problem that a lot of people have, but do you ever offer them a deal and they don't buy it?
Yes, and I tell them, if you're not going to buy it, I am. I always
Okay,
say
But
that
if
up
they don't
front.
buy it, are they ethically bound to do what you're doing for them? They don't care. They just don't buy it.
I know, yeah.
There is no ethic to this. I mean, it's not about ethical. Now, here's what we do when like we go in and make an offer on somebody's house and we're buying it below, we will absolutely make them, and we put it in writing. We could get you more if you would do these repairs, and we give them every option to get the most money.
The
Right.
Sellers, and things like that. But other than that, there really is no ethical anything to finding them. If they don't buy every house you give them, you don't have to give them every house you find.
Yeah, it's just I think it's a fine line, right, Linda? Because you want to keep them because they buy 5 and 6 and 7
Yeah.
properties
Right.
a year.
Yeah, that's
But-
true. But who, at the end of the day, Are they going to be at the end of your life when you need money passively? Are they going to be there going, hey, you know what? You were so good for us. Let me pitch in here and help you out a little bit.
After you get all the ones that you need to meet your criteria, sell them all the rest. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've struggled with that a little bit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand that because we kind of struggle with that too. But most the ones we bought directly from our sellers that we didn't put out to the other investors. I mean, we wrote into the contracts that if we listed them, we
could
could
get 'em
get
more
you more
money.
money
We
and
tried
stuff.
everything, yeah.
And at the end of the day, they wanted to get it sold. They wanted to get the money that they wanted out of the property, and they wanted to move on down the road.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Hey, by
Good
the way, your hair
questions.
looks great. So just keep it up.
Oh, thanks. I just got it done.
Literally, I was just getting ready to say to Josh, her hair looks so good
Hey,
today.
great job on the properties you bought so far.
Yeah. Keep it up.
Awesome.
Oh, and I was
Well,
gonna
it's because of you all solely. I mean, everything I learned and did, I finally got the courage, and I've heard Linda say, if it doesn't scare you enough to pee in your pants, don't do it. And I finally freaking check and did it. I mean,
That's
and I
funny.
bought two within 2 years or within a year and a half. And, now I have to replenish my funds, but I thought, you know what? Linda said I could do it, and I'm just going to do it.
that's why they make Depends. I'm sure of it. It's not. You might need them in old age, but you'll definitely need them in old age if you don't buy some houses between now and then.
Well, I
So
need them listening to you for sure.
I'm really proud of you. That's awesome.
Way to go,
go.
Stephanie. I was going to tell you guys though, one of our agents in Dayton just got approached by, is it a REIT? Is that what they're called? REIT?
Yeah,
By a REIT, and
that's a real estate investment trust.
they gave him a bucket load of money and said, buy us anything in that part of the country. So guys, those are your deals. Those should be your deals.
And
That's so true.
we see around the country, like in our area in Texas, our prices have gone completely nuts. We have a hard time unless we're putting a lot of money down to make the numbers work in our particular area now. But in y'all's area, I mean, the numbers work.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole book really, it applies very well to that area.
Yeah.
In Ohio and Kentucky and Indiana.
Love it. Okay, real quick, last one. Before you guys owned your own property management company, why did you choose to hire a property management company versus do it your own? Because I think a lot of people are like, should I hire a property management company and pay the percentage, or should I just do it on my own?
Well, in the beginning, before we really learned from Gary, the key to every business is the people you put in the spot. We made a few bad mistakes. Well, one, we got in the property management business by mistake, because in that downturn economy, all of my sellers couldn't afford to sell, but they loved me and trusted me. So they said, please manage our property while we move on. So of course I couldn't say no. So I started managing their properties, and then we managed our own properties.
Yeah, and the problem is we did it for 5%.
Yeah,
And there's no money in there at 5% to go do it.
You make money on pennies. So now we're
10%.
Yeah,
or 8%.
We're back on full circle. We have our own girl that manages our own properties. And if we had it to do over again, we would put it with one of our assistants. And when there's enough properties that 7 or 10% would be the management fees, then we would go hire a person, and that's all they would do is manage all those properties. But until then, our assistants would manage a few of them each, or one of them manage all of them. That's how we would do it if we had to do over again today, starting that way. And then when we had enough properties purchased, then we would hire a full-time person, and that's all they would do is manage our properties.
Our lady manages 70 something annual rentals, and we pay her 70,000 a year.
Yeah.
To go do that.
Yeah.
And she does all the front end stuff, she signs all the leases, she does all the
Evictions,
research, she does,
raises the rents when we don't even know what the
she
rents
does
are.
everything on the front end. And then our accounting team corporately does all the back end accounting. And we run monthly profit and loss statements on every property we have.
Wow. Love it. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Right on time. Thank you all so much. I think you're even aren't you somewhere else teaching right now? So thanks for doing this.
Actually, we were in Florida. We taught for for Nikki's awards banquet for her offices. And we are now, for their 40th wedding anniversary, going to the Sand Pearl resort and gonna party for her birthday and her anniversary, and celebrate our wonderful partnerships that we've had with them all these years.
That is so awesome. I did not know they were 40 years.
they're right behind us. We're 41 and they're 40. I mean, literally our lives just parallel with each
We've
other.
been partners with them for about 30 years.
Yeah.
I
they're-
love
they're
it.
great- they're great
Oh,
partners.
well, thank you guys for being with us. Have so much fun. And I hope you guys got a lot of good notes today. It's always great to hear from Linda and Jim. So thanks. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Take care.
care.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.